y'all, my name's Jenny Caudle. I'm with Vulcans Forge Studios at Lowe Mill in Huntsville, Alabama. I am a fantasy and humor and illustration artist. Today I'm going to have a video talking about the use of color in limited color palettes. I want to teach people to use limited color palettes because I find that when you're faced with the entire spectrum of color, it can get a little overwhelming. So I like to work in small color palettes, and today I'll teach you simple color palette usage. Tune in! Alright guys, so we were talking about limited color palettes today. The program I like to use, especially on the iPad, is called Procreate. It's super great. It's only $10 for your entire subscription forever, which is super awesome. There's tons of extra downloadable brushes, and I really like these effects that you have that's called palettes. So I like to work in a lot of pastels and neon colors, as you've noticed for my art, and I really like this color spectrum here. And the importance of working in a limited palette is to make sure that you still do have variances of values. So you still have the spectrum down here is going to be your light values, you have your mid-tone values, and then you have your darker values down here at the end. And that is extremely important to making limited palettes, believable palettes. But it also makes it a lot easier because you're not having to worry about a bunch of different colors, and you can really have a lot of fun with it. So for this piece that I'm working on now, I've decided that I want to go with this color for her skin because I think it would be a nice kind of little soft green blue color. And when I'm working in Procreate, I really just like the simple painting tools. I mean, there's a lot of brushes that you can use, but this is just what works for me. And you can always find something that works for you too. So usually I go ahead and block in with the base color just so I don't color outside the lines. This isn't kindergarten, you know. So I kind of come in here and I just kind of start filling in the skin tones. It's a lot. It takes a lot of time, but it'll look really nice when we're done. And I'm already just totally loving this. This is fantastic. I really like this color base that I'm working on right here. But I'm super crazy about teals, greens, and pinks, and purples, and blues, and all those fun colors. They're just bright, and they're just happy. So, like I said, I'm just kind of coming in here, feeling and everything. The real magic's gonna happen here when I start getting all my colors together. It's really gonna start pulling together. And this is a fun little piece I just wanted to do. It's kind of like an inspirational piece for myself as well. I love things like that. Of course, the little heart's going to change color because the blending I have it on. I like to use the add tool on my layer qualities that I have. So you get these nice different little things that you can do. And I like to use add for that glow because it just really gives it that soft little glow. I got that mostly blocked in. So now we're going to pick and decide what color I want her hair. So I kind of want it to contrast against her skin, so I'm gonna come to this darker spectrum, and I think I'll go with this nice little dark periwinkle blue that's down here. I think that'll be pretty. Sometimes I play with it, 'cause sometimes I'm not sure. Let me see. I'm gonna put it against her skin and see how I like that. I think it's a little too melancholy, so I don't think I'm gonna go with that. It's always fine to play. I mean, you never know which is going to work for you. So let's try this little purple. No, I don't think that's quite what I want either. So let's see. I may step back and go a little lighter. I think that color might look nice. Yeah, I like the quality of that. It's a sharp contrast to the current color. And that's the thing with color. I mean, especially when you're working these limited palettes, color is just a figment of our imagination and our brains anyway, so it's not even real. That's what I always tell myself. Don't get caught up in all the different colors. It's so much easier just to kind of have fun. And I feel like the artwork ends up being a lot more happy as well. And you don't tend to muddy your colors up too bad. Plus it makes this piece just a little less somber than working in just solid blues, I think. And again, I'm just kind of blocking in the colors. My favorite part's gonna come after I get all this stuff blocked in. I really like doing the detailing and the shading and lighting. That's my favorite part. So now I'm trying to tighten up my lines a little bit, my color, because I don't want to have to keep covering over. And that's the great thing about digitals. If you get sloppy, you can just go right back over it. There's no mistakes in digital art that you can't fix. Unless you forget that you're drawing on the wrong layer for an hour. I'm just going to zoom in and get this little curl. But you see how nice the contrast in color is here. And that's what you kind of want to work with on a limited palette. You want to have colors that contrast. Oops, the wrong color. And I think what I want to do is I'm going to use the same color on her lips just to kind of pull color across. I like to use repeating colors in a lot of my pieces just to kind of tie everything together. It really helps with limited palettes to do that anyway. It helps tie things across and make it more believable. You're probably going to start hearing a lot of random sounds in the background. I am working at a large arts facility, so there's a lot of other tenants here as well. They're starting to come in and start their days. Alright, so I'm going to come back to my limited palette again, and I think for these little tear marks that I have on her face, I'm going to go with this kind of sky blue. I think that would be a nice contrast. It is. It looks nice. Now, one of my style characteristics that I like to do, and I'm sure you've kind of noticed, is I like to do a little bit of a blush. So I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to pick kind of this like pinky, light pinky purpley color. And I just lightly apply some pressure, because this is something you kind of want to build up. And that's a nice contrast on the skin right now. So it looks pretty great. Same on the nose, gonna build it up. And then my favorite part, I love this little smudge tool. It really kind of helps soften those edges. So it makes it look soft. So I really like everything to be kind of soft. And I'll kind of come over here and soften the edge of her lips too, kind of soften that up. just nice and soft. And then I'm gonna do the same down here. Take that pinky color, come in here with that brush. I'm gonna make that brush a little bigger, and then I'm gonna add some blush here. I like to add blush to chest, shoulders, elbows, fingertips, hands, noses, everywhere pretty much. It just adds a nice little contrast, kind of breaks up just the plain skin color. Ooh, a little too big. It's just something about, you know, just kind of plugging away and playing with stuff. That's all I like about art, is it, we get so stressed out about it, and we get so bent out of shape about it, but really, you just have to sit down and play. I mean, your art is your art, and that's just who you are. And it's perfect because you made it. So let's see. I think for her rib cage that I've got down here, I might want to go with one of these blues. I think that'd be a nice contrast, because I pretty much am planning to do most of the flowers pink, so it'll be a nice contrast. So I've got that. So now I have all these little flowers. So I'm probably going to take a bunch of these pinks in this quadrant section right here and just kind of work in varying shades just to add some contrast. So that'll kind of help set things apart, so everything doesn't look so flat. Use this one. Kind of just going down the line of that pink. But see how it's starting to contrast and fill out? So we got some of these lovely pinks in here that kind of have an orange quality to them. Some of them that have more of a red, and some that have kind of a blue. It's just a nice little contrast. And I just like pink anyway. This is kind of like a pinky purple. That looks nice against some of these oranges. Because you have to think a little bit too about color theory. And a lot of these colors, like orange and blue, are opposite of each other, so they look really nice together. So when you have like an orangey and a purple color, they match up really nicely too. Because purple is red and blue. There's a whole lot of color theory that I could go on and on and on about. But sometimes it's best just to look at the wheels yourself and study them, because it can be a lot to think about. I'm getting more gradient purple. Purple's like one of my other favorite colors. And if you get out of line, you can always color select just by holding over. That's one of the really cool things I like about Procreate. It's pretty user friendly. And I feel like everybody has an iPad or iPhone or something these days. So it's super accessible. I think I want to add some more of these little pinks in here. And here, and there, and let's see. I think that orange, that orange, I think would look nice here. Kind of break up some of those purples. Like that color for here would be a nice pop. And for these, kind of like a moss is what I was going for. So I think what I want to do is do some of these like blues. I think would be a nice contrast. Maybe something a little darker. Let's see about that. See, when you're working with green and blue, you have to be careful because they're very similar. Because green, of course, has blue in it. So you've got to have a very good contrast when you're working with those colors on top of each other. Otherwise, they tend to get muddied and they'll kind of just disappear. I think that's starting to look pretty nice. I like the color combinations. Something else to always think about too when you're working on limited palettes is warm colors versus cool colors. And to me, I kind of like how they're close, but at the same time, these are more, they have some more warmer colors in here, and then you have your cold colors here, and then you get back into your warm colors up here. It kind of helps give things more shape. And warm versus cool colors, all it is warm colors tend to have more yellow in them, and cool colors tend to have more blues in them. I like to think about warm and cool as like warm being like firelight and cool being like snow, ice. So I've got all these flowers down here that I've got up in her hair as well. So we're gonna use those same colors that I used here to use up here, because I like to tie and pull things throughout my artwork, which is a really good thing to do because it really helps pull your piece together in the long run. I'm gonna pull some more of these orange up into her hair. So I think it's a good contrast because her hair is so like deep magenta. So see how nice that is? You have all the colors here, and then they bring up into this area as well. That's something that I always try to make sure I do, is to tie those colors. Because people like patterns. We're just naturally drawn to patterns. And it really, I think, helps ties the art together in the long run. So I'm going to take some of this yellow for the center of the flowers. It also kind of helps add some extra warmth up here. Same for down here. I'm going to add some of this yellow. I've got some little flower centers. There we go. And I've got these extra little petal pieces I'm going to color in too. And now we've got down to the little banners, I guess you would call them, down here. I'm trying to think what colors I'd like for that. I think I might do this like can't decide if I want to do this teal color or maybe this yellow, so we'll see. Like I said, it's always worth playing. If you don't like it, you can always change it. You know, I think I do like that little orangey, the little lime green color. So it just adds a really sharp contrast color, but it's also light and soft. And if you ever color into your lines, it's no big deal. You can just go back over them. That's the awesome thing about working digitally. Trust me, I color over into my colors a lot. That's the wrong color. All right, there we go. So look, this pink from her nails. So I'm gonna tie this pink to right here. Just kind of pulls your eyes that way. And I'm gonna pick this yellow that I used. Put it right there. There. So that's our flat colors. And this is, like I said, this is a limited palette. So you've got a good gradient of colors and you have a lot of contrast. You've got warms versus cools and lights and darks. And this is just the base. But even just in flat, see how 3D it seems to, like, it looks, there's a lot of definition and shape to it. But we're not done quite yet. Next we're going to move into shading. And when I work in shading, I like to use multiply. And depending on the mood I want, I'll either pick like a purple, a darker purple, or like a darker blue. Because I want this one to kind of be soft and a little more colorful, I'm gonna go with purple. Because blue on multiply tends to be closer to like a black, and I'm not quite wanting to go that dark. But I like using color for shading over just using straight black, because I find that your pieces will be a lot more vibrant and a lot less muddied. I used to shade with black all the time, and I never could quite get my work to look just like I wanted it. And then one day I just decided to start using blue. Because if you notice, a lot of people tend to have skin tones shaded in blue in the shadows. And that's something I picked up in school. And I decided, well, why don't I just use blue all the time then? And then I started using blue and purple. If I really want to get crazy, sometimes I'll use like red. It really just depends on the mood of the piece that you want to create. So when I shade, I just kind of do just big chunky points of where I know the light's gonna fall. So anywhere that would have shadow on, I just kind of come in with this big chunk. And I kind of like certain areas that will have more shadow, I'll push down harder to make it darker. Since my pen's on pressures. And then I'll kind of lighten up on areas that aren't going to be quite as dark. I don't know, this totally looks like a mess right now, but I promise it'll get better. So next, we're gonna come back to my friend Mr. Smudge, and we're gonna just kind of soften everything up by just running over it. I've gotten so spoiled on this tool because it makes painting for me like super fast. Because I used to have to do gradient shading by hand. Which would take forever. Ain't technology great? Again, I'm just running it all over my shade areas. Pushing it, pulling it. That good stuff. Now that we've kind of got it all smoothed out, or almost smoothed out, notice how dark everything is. Well, I don't want a lot of this too dark. So what I like to do is I come over here with the eraser tool, pull down the opacity on it, and just kind of come back into these areas and erase at different pressure points, and it actually starts lightening. It starts giving softer shadows, gives some texture, which I'm like big about. I love textures. See how that's kind of just softening everything up and adding some highlights back in. I love those little rough edges. Just adds that little bit of a painter touch to it. Traditionally, I was a painter. That's what I went to school for and did a lot of work for. But I just like digital so very much because I feel like it's so much more forgiving and it's a lot better on your pocketbook in the long run. Because those oil paints are expensive. I could never quite get it as soft as I wanted. Or as vibrant. Not like I can with digital. See how that softened up a lot? Took a lot of that dark spots away. So we don't want shading everywhere, just on some spots. Because you just want to give shape to form, and that's what shading's the best about. And we'll kind of come back in here, kind of take away some of this. Some up here. Come in here. So, my next favorite thing to do is highlights, which is similar to shading, except instead of multiply, you're gonna use, I like to use add personally. I used to use overlay, but I really like how soft and glowy the add is. And I usually go with the yellow, because your lights are usually gonna be warm, unless you're gonna paint a scene that is cold. But I like to stick with warm because it kind of gives a good contrast to that purple shading. because yellow and purple are contrasts to each other, and they work really nicely together. So it turns like this kind of yellowy white, but see how like soft and glowy that is? I just absolutely love that. Let's come in here and kind of add some pops of light to some of these. And in here. And then up to her face. Hair. I kind of like to follow the flow for highlights on hair. Kind of put some on the flowers here. Brighten those up, because they should be bright and happy. And then up here, I'm going to add that. And again, our BFF smudge. I'm going to come in here, soften all this up. See how that brought a lot of brightness back in? So highlights and shading are extremely important. Because as you see, like, you kind of have more movement and shape into your pieces. And that really helps, especially with illustrations, to make them not so flat. Smoothing everything out. Alright, so now I'll come back in with the lightening tool again and lighten up. I'll do some more detailed, like on the nose, get that little highlight, her eyelids, things that are really going to reflect light, the cheeks, her little earring. I'm going to come it down and do the little highlight on the lips. And then I'm going to light up these tears, because I feel like they're important, so they need to be bright. And then I like to add like little glitter spots. But see all these textures? I love to leave all these textures in here. I don't want to smooth everything out too much, because I really enjoy those soft textures that you get. Just adds a whole nother level, I think, to art, is to have those bold textures. Makes it more interesting. But I'm gonna come back in her hair and do some little rough highlights. I like to do that. Kind of like separate strands that are kind of lit up with light, but they're subtle enough so they don't stand out too much. So the other one, that kind of looks awkward. Alright, so we're gonna come in here and add some little spots and stuff to kind of add some more shape. Little squiggles. Just adds a lot more shape to things when you do this. And texture, which I'm big about. I like texture. One of my favorite things These girls with these good manicures, give them some glitter. And glitter is pretty easy. It's just you vary the pressure of like making little dots, and it just makes that glitter effect. Not fantastic. All of that. She's fierce. All right. So next is my absolute favorite thing to do, and that is I'm gonna come up here over our line layer. And do add. And I love doing these big, I guess they call them bouquet lights. I don't know. I call it glitter. I think it's fantastic. It just adds that kind of magical, ethereal like aspect to a lot of stuff. I know you've seen it a lot in my works. I think it's fantastic. Just something fun. I really like to do it in hair. I'm gonna do it in some of these flowers kind of coming out. And I'm gonna get some smaller ones. It's always good to have smaller ones. Alright, so now I got those. I like to blur them out a little bit so they're a little softer. So I'll just kind of move that. I think I like it about there. Looks great. So something new that I've done that's really started making my line art softer, which is one of the things I've been pushing for a while, is trying to figure out how to make it soft. Is I actually saw somebody online do it and they shared their tip, so I thought it's pretty neat. But you just copy your lines and then paste them, and then the new line art, you just come to your blur tool and you just pull it and it just makes it soft, and that just like blew my mind. So you can kind of play with it. I like it. Kind of around there. Need a background. So for a lot of my backgrounds, I'll pick a bold color. I gotta think of something to contrast. So let's see. Maybe this is something else to play with. I think I like that pink. I think that's nice. So and it's just kind of boring to have it just plain Jane like that. So I like to pick all these wonderful texture tools that they have. I use concrete block a lot because I really like the scratchy texture. And nebula sometimes because it's like a pretty glowing like galaxy effect. But I think for her, I think I'm going to use cloud. And I'm gonna do it on add, and I think I'm gonna do it in this little cotton candy kind of background. I think that would be kind of cute. So, but look how soft. But it adds texture, so it doesn't make the background just so blah. Because like I said, I like texture. Kind of. I mean, didn't that just make that so much nicer? You can see how soft everything is, and the clouds just make everything so pretty. So the final thing to do for me, I like to come in and do some kind of overlay color to really kind of pull everything in as a final color. Which I think I want to go maybe with this like orangey. We'll see. So this can take time because I like to just pick different stuff. Like I kind of like that. I knock it down. Maybe? Nah. But you have all these different filters you can play with. Because I like to add filters. I think I like it with overlay. See, it kind of just made it a little softer. And it kind of made the colors more cohesive together. And the last thing to do, of course the most important, is to sign it. And I like to sign it with all my ad layers because I like the glowy signature. Make sure I got my ink pen. Okay, cool. I've been trying to get better about signing all of my work. It is hard to remember sometimes because I'm not used to it. Or never really liked doing it to begin with. But trying to get better. And then I'll kind of knock the opacity down. Because I like it to be subtle. I don't like my signature to stand out too much because I don't want it to ruin the piece. I want it to be subtle. So that's perfect. Alright, well I hope you guys learned some things. I hope you learned some new tips, tricks, and color theory. I know that's just getting your feet wet for the day. I'm hoping to do the next video be a drawing demonstration. Well, I'll kind of teach you how to do face structure and that kind of good stuff in different styles and all that kind of things. So, hey, I hope you guys had fun and learned a lot today. Before you go, I wanted to let you know that our Etsy store is currently having a Labor Day sale. We've got 20% off your $10 purchase. Also, we always have free shipping on orders 35 plus. So get that free shipping and get you some really cool stuff. And while I've got you, I'm actually going to show you guys some new products. So here we have some prints, some new small prints as well as a large print that I've done. We've got our special Halloween goodie pack that is a limited time. We've got some brand new pins that we're adding into our repertoire, and I'll be releasing one a month. And I've also got some new car vinyl stickers, so you can show the world that you are a trash queen. Check out the Etsy link that we've got posted in the comments, and we will hope to see you soon in our order list. Have a good day. Bye!